All right, I just realized something. I started watching the movie Stalker, the Andrei Tarkovsky masterpiece, and I remember it being in relation to Solaris. And I'll start with Solaris because I'm more interested in Stalker because that's the one I've seen. But Solaris is when your deepest desires come true without you asking. And Stalker is when you're allowed your deepest desire to come true if you name it. So you don't name it and you get it if you name it. Those are the two approaches. And one may be a vision of hell. So I've never seen the movie Solaris, but it sounds sort of like the inspiration for Event Horizon or something. And Stalker is about the beatific vision of heaven. And faith in a secular world where the secular world tries to stamp out faith and cannot succeed in the end because they witness God and his glory, and they just immediately have to give in to it basically after thinking it through a little bit. And there's also another aspect to this, which is perhaps the stalker is Jesus and the poet is Peter, and the scientist that initially tries to blow up the zone and then fails to is Paul of Tarsus. And the poet explicitly wears a crown of thorns. So while faith is never mentioned, there's at least one hardcore reference to Jesus at the end of it. And in essence, what it's saying is there is a journey towards God we can make in this life, and some people will be against it and some people will be for it. But at the end of the day, only one of them makes it. And the stalker is Jesus because he goes the distance as the way, the truth, and the life through the zone journey to the wish-granting room. And then he enters the room and he gets his heart's desire, which is that he lives content with his wife and child. And the church is the bride, and the people of the church are the sons and daughters of Christ. And the movie shifts to a more colorful vision for the period that the man, the woman, and the child are living life together. Um, so Stalker is a Christian movie. It's very minimalist. There's only one reference to Jesus, and it's a crown of thorns. But um, the structure is there. And what it's saying is there's always going to be something bizarre about the world that some people search and find a thread of, and they might never get to the end point of discovering how long that thread is as they unravel it and follow it. But it will call to many, and few are chosen. And then there's, of course, Porcupine, um, who um, not famously, it's not exactly the most famous movie, but Porcupine might, in fact, be Moses. Now, that's a very loose take. However, Porcupine had a brother, and Moses had a brother. And Moses' brother was the political arm, whereas Moses was the prophetic arm of the ancient Israelites during the Exodus. However, Aaron, Moses' brother, might have been dead to Christ because he was an idol worshiper or facilitated the worship of the golden calf idol and so on. And what Porcupine, who's the current movie, the in movie Stalker's mentor and teacher, did is he led people to the wish granting room and then entered it himself one day, and he thought he wanted um, his deepest desire was for the resurrection of his brother, but instead he got money. So it turned out his deepest desire was wealth. And he couldn't take it and killed himself. There might be an element of Judas in this too, in the story. The 30 pieces of silver and the betrayal of Jesus and the ending of one's own life. So he's like a Moses Judas figure combined at the same time. Porcupine is. Now keep in mind, this was a movie made in the Soviet Union, where the religious persecution was very intense. So you had to be a little sneaky. But the rough structure of the movie is in fact there. That points to the movie Stalker being essentially a film about faith and one's relationship to the divine. The thing that we cannot name but will give us our deepest desires. And Solaris, as a bit of a nightmarish film, is when our passions overwhelm truth and our highest desires. So one is you get what you want before you know you want it. And the other one is you can get what you want if you can name it. And naming it means you want it and know what it is. Now I know the stalker in the movie says he didn't get his wish granted or anything like that. But you notice how he's happiest of all the characters. He gets family. He can make money. He can provide for his family. He gets to live a regular life, basically. His being a stalker and leading people through the zone was because he had a higher calling, basically. And he's been given permission to focus on his own life after such a long time serving, bringing others to their deepest desires, uh, and so on. And a holy mission, basically. And he's retired. But he's retired with the honor of getting what he secretly most wanted and finding that it's not different than what he has, basically. And that is sort of the joy in Christ and contentment in the middle of the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune is not just the game show thing, which is based on the biblical medieval motif, but it's the biblical medieval motif is top is king, right is downfall, bottom is, well, the bottom, suffering, and left is ascending or rising again. And if you're in the middle, on some level, then you're okay no matter what. And Paul the Apostle said, I can be high, I can be low, I know how to live through plenty and starvation, and so on. I mentioned in my aristocrat and bureaucrat video and explained in detail how I expect to be given a comfortable and well-off life in the future, possibly by God, in a sort of miracle level fashion, basically, something that's kind of wacky to everyone else, like how did that even happen, and so on. However, the important thing is I've been trained and experienced and practiced living as well as I can through the highs and lows of life to various degrees and in different ways over my life. And that means that there might in fact be a higher calling for me. That means I can live in comfort after living poorly, like physical poverty, basically, for the last 20 years. Or about 19 years, maybe 20, maybe 18 years even. But it's like 18 to 20 years. Most of adult life. And what that means is, in essence, now I want to be careful about this because it's not exactly true, but in a way, when you come to Jesus by faith, you do end up doing good works. That's the proof of your faith. It's not the faith itself, it's the proof, it's the show and tell of the faith you actually already have. So you have to have it, and then you can show and tell it. And what that means is, with that in mind, after the prerequisite of genuine faith emerges, thanks to I think the emphasis is on God contacting you and cultivating you and growing you himself. Once you have the faith from his reaching out to you, you do good works, and with that specifically in mind continually, then you can say service guarantees citizenship with all the benefits. I don't know if this is going to happen exactly like I'm hoping for in my own life or anything like that, but that's my guess. And that's my breakdown of Stalker and so on. I'm sure other people have come to these conclusions and so on. People say it's a mystery and so on, but basically that's what it comes down to. It's the mystery of faith and the divine and whatever's going on behind the physical material universe and so on. And higher ideals like justice, truth, and love. Because as Terry Pratchett wrote in the book, I can't remember the book's name, but the character Death says, "Show me a mote of wisdom, an ounce of love, and an atom of justice," or something like that. Yeah, and yet these things are like, these things exist, but they're not physical. And they point to something even higher that is not physical in the usual sense, but merges everything, or doesn't merge everything, but like is the source of everything itself, and ties all these different things together in some sort of web of correlation and causation and meaning and purpose and so on. And that's one of the reasons why belief in God leads to purpose and meaning and happiness and contentment and so on. Because it means you actually have a picture of a person behind it that creates other people eventually. So I do believe in 4 billion years of evolution. I think it's 3 billion years, and the Earth is 4 billion years old. But I believe God is at the beginning of it, and when it ends, we'll find God waiting for us on the other side. And my experiences suggest to me that it's not wishful thinking. Because when God came into my life in a noticeable way, I forgot the word God existed even. I was such an atheist. Like I wasn't even like thinking of God. Like I literally forgot the word God existed. So I don't think it's wish fulfillment. I was like spooked. I was like, what the hell's going on with this shit? You know, like it was kind of like Scrooge with the ghost of Marley. It's like, oh, you're just indigestion. You know, like so yeah. And that's also why A Christmas Carol is a properly Christian story. Because it's about the redemption of a miserly secular atheist who's self-interested, or selfish, rather, and very material and utilitarian. And it turns him into a better person who's still competent financially, but he's more competent financially for the benefit of his fellow man and not just numbers on a paycheck. And that's, again, I mentioned it earlier in the previous video, but that is the essence of a good aristocrat. To be competent at things others are not, for the sake of themselves and other people. And that might mean leadership, it might mean a technical skill, but the purpose is to be good at it for the benefit of yourself and other people. And as you earn experience and practice and skill and wisdom, you begin to get more responsibilities as you go and develop. And it also sort of begins to be more abstract. So instead of being good at it yourself, you're good at teaching others to be good at it, or you're good at leading others who are also good at it, and then you're good at teaching people who are good at it, and then you learn to teach other people to be leaders of people that are good at it. There's like levels of development and so on. And some people can go through all of them. Some people can only do a bit of one or the other or something like that. But there's generally a foundation of some sort of practical skills that you have a minor degree of understanding of, at least, working in the trenches, so to speak, which is why veterancy and so on. And that's one of the reasons why you can be promoted to your level of incompetence, because you're competent the entire way up until you hit that level. So it might be a matter of demoting someone a rank and letting them be good at that level that they're actually good at, instead of promoting them to just one above where they're good at. And if they're good at it, and then you can pay them good, because they're doing a lot of work, they're doing a good job, they're quality, they're desirable. And that's where excellence in what you do takes place, and so on. And, putting in the extra mile to impress the bosses and so on, at least in some places, can be a good thing, depending on the character of the bosses. If they're ratty and jealous of people doing good work, and they're always gossiping and backstabbing and knocking people down and all that sort of thing, maybe find a different boss. But if they're yeah, you can replace me eventually, and I'm cultivating you to take my job when I'm done, so I can retire and enjoy life, and you can do the job that I was doing, then that's put in the extra effort for that guy. You know what I mean?